Think about this verse. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. Matthew 5:8. What does that make you feel? Most of you here want to see God. You want to live for God and with God. That's why you're here, even if you're just starting this journey. That being the case, Jesus gave a pretty clear standard here: those whose hearts are pure. But most of us know ourselves well enough to know that we are not pure when we take matters into our own hands. I know that I make mistakes. I'm not pure of heart on my own. Sure, I put in effort and I try to live more like Jesus every day, but I still make mistakes. So, is there hope? Of course there is. Our hope is in Jesus, and because of Jesus' death and resurrection, he gives us new life. He cleans our hearts. Jesus gives me overwhelming victory to be pure. And that's what I want you to remember today. Jesus makes us pure. This is not us doing this on our own. You may say, but I feel like such a failure because this is my nature. Well, let me tell you that you're in good company. Look at the words of Paul, a man who wrote a lot of the New Testament. He was a follower of Jesus who was there at the very beginning of the church. And this is what he says: "And I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway." Romans 7:18-19. Can you relate? We want to do what's right and pure, but there is something about our human nature that draws us to doing the opposite. Even when we know what's right, there's a temptation to do what's wrong. So, how can we walk in purity? We have to get focused on the fact that purity is a heart issue. It's not about rules and regulations and following all the do's and the don'ts. It comes from a right relationship with God the Father through Jesus, and allowing Jesus and God's Spirit to purify our hearts and to clean us. Jesus gives us victory to be pure. So what does that look like for you and me today? Number 1, let God give me a new heart. You may think that statement is for those who are not yet following Jesus. And yes, that is the first step in our spiritual journey. If you've never made the decision to follow Jesus, know that he's waiting with open arms. You might be thinking, you don't know the things I've done. There's no turning back for me. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be perfect to come to God. You don't have to get your life all fixed up before you become a follower of Jesus. Actually, if you were able to fix your life all on your own, wouldn't you have already done that? We don't have the power to purify our hearts. Only God can do that. So the first step in your faith journey is to allow God to give you a new heart, to live in his victory and not trying to rely on your own power. If you've made Jesus the leader of your life, this is an ongoing transformation that God is doing in our life. We make the decision to become a follower of Jesus and he renews our heart. But when was the last time you asked God to renew your heart again, to clean you, to change you again? It's an ongoing process. The prophet Ezekiel in the Old Testament wrote this about God transforming our hearts: "And I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender, responsive heart." Ezekiel 36:26. Jesus gives me overwhelming victory to be pure. It's not in our own power to change our hearts or clean our hearts to be pure. I don't have the ability to look at my heart and see all the parts that I haven't given to God or that have begun to turn to stone. And I don't have the ability to look at your heart and do that either. I have to rely on God's power and ask him to renew my heart. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Proverbs 4:23. For it determines the course of your life. That's powerful. Your heart determines the course of your life. So we need to look to God to renew our hearts. We need to look to God and only God to give us the victory to be pure. Number 2, let God give me a new spirit. It starts with one step of faith in Jesus, but the renewing of your spirit, God's spirit in us, is step by step every single day. Making Jesus the leader of your life means that his Holy Spirit comes into your life, and the Holy Spirit helps guide us. He helps show us what's right and wrong. Let's look at the next section of Ezekiel. And I will put my spirit in you so that you will follow my decrees and be careful to obey my regulations. Ezekiel 36:27. With that decision of making Jesus the leader of our lives, his spirit becomes a part of our lives. So it's not really something that happens one time. The Holy Spirit is in us, and that's something that we experience every single day. When we have his spirit in us, we want to follow Jesus and we want to be obedient. Jesus is the answer. He gives me and you and us overwhelming victory to be pure. And this leads to a life of freedom and is the true healing process of God transforming our lives. And allowing God to renew our hearts and our spirits, that's not just a one-time thing. You can come back to God all the time and ask him to renew your heart and spirit. As you go through this week, look for those moments where you begin to rely on yourself. Be honest and ask yourself, am I allowing God to renew my heart and renew my spirit? Am I living in the victory that Jesus gives me? And then just talk to God. Wherever you are, just talk to him and ask him to renew you so that you can live in his victory.